Welcome to Washington Hospital Today, dedicated to informing residents about healthcare topics and issues. Through programs featuring community forums and free health and wellness classes, our goal is to empower community members with the information needed to make informed health decisions. Washington Hospital has been providing healthcare to the residents of the Washington Township Healthcare District for the past 60 years. Today's presenters are Mary's son, Lorrie Roffelsen, and Macaria Meyer. Mary's son has been working as an inpatient dietitian at Washington Hospital. Lorrie Roffelsen is a registered dietitian at the Washington Hospital Healthcare System. Macaria Meyer is a registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator with Washington Hospital Healthcare System.
So we created some questions to learn more about eating healthy with diabetes. So if you know the answer to any of the questions, just feel free to raise your hand. A volunteer will come over and bring a microphone and you can answer the question.
Question 1. Diet and exercise are the first line of treatment for diabetes. True or false? True. How many say true? Yay. How many say false? Anybody? Okay, we get to see too how much you guys know, okay? So when we prepare for our next presentation, maybe somewhere down the future. All right, let's see what the answer is. Yay, who answered true?
Yay, good job.
Okay.
So answer is true. Diet and exercise should be the first line of treatment for diabetes. Now keep in mind that there are medications out there to help manage diabetes, but diet and exercise should be your top and first choice. Unfortunately, there's also no cure for diabetes at this time, although researchers are making a lot of strides in the field every day to learn more about this disease.
Next question. People with diabetes have to avoid sugar entirely. True or false? How many says true? Well, how many say true? You don't know. Oh, you're like this. There's a lot of this. Okay, how about false? Oh, there you go. You're looking at this question really detail-wise. Okay, here is the answer.
So answer is false. So if you've answered false, you are correct. Sugar is important in our diet, but the key is to avoid excess sugar. We do need to incorporate enough of sugar because we do need it as energy. So very careful not to add too much sugar to your food.
Question number 3. Oh, go ahead. Oh. That's
She's
quick. Okay, there's no one-size-fits-all diet for diabetes. True or false? Okay. How many say true? How many say false? Okay, so there's really no real diet out there, right? Specific for diabetes. We are clear with that. Okay, so this is the answer. Okay.
So if you answered true, you are correct. Now, the ideal diet is a healthy eating plan to help you manage your blood sugar, also manage weight, and to prevent complications. So there really isn't one size fits all. Not one diet is going to work for everyone because you want to choose a plan that you know you can stick to, that you can follow on a long-term basis.
So basically, a diet is the one that you're going to follow, that you feel like you can live with every day, and that is going to be controlling your blood sugar. So very important to always test your blood sugar so you know whether your diet and your exercise regimen are working, right? Because there's no single diet. Like for example, for people with celiac disease, we have a gluten-free diet that is specific for that condition. But for diabetes, there isn't one. So it's one that's going to work for you guys. And that's why this is really the most difficult part about having diabetes. Nobody wants to eat a diet that they don't want to eat. So you need to take a look at what you're eating, what you like to eat, and how that's affecting your blood sugar. But you need to do that by checking your blood sugar every day. And if it's high or it's too low, okay, what did you do? Did you take your medication? Did you eat too much? As long as you know why those blood sugars are the way they are, that's the only way that you can figure out how to create your own meal plan that's going to work for you. Okay, we can't tell you that. You have to arm yourself with the knowledge and know what foods that are going to affect that blood sugar. So we don't have a magic diet, basically. That's what it's all about.
And I think when we were talking about this presentation, we have to also remember that some people may have diabetes, but maybe they also have kidney problems or heart problems. So sometimes you have to consider also sodium and other nutrients in the diet, not just sugars and carbohydrates. So sometimes it can be a little complicated depending on what other maybe health problems you have.
See, that's what the first bullet says. The ideal diet is a healthy eating plan that's going to help you control your blood sugar. Okay, so depending on what your ethnic preferences, you don't want to eat American type food, you want to eat your own food, that's fine. But in every culture, there is some kind of, a meal or a food choice that's healthy, that's going to be lower sodium, lower fat naturally. So you want to take a look at what kind of food that you're eating right now and see what those food choices are and try to incorporate those in your diet every day if possible, or more regularly. Okay, so you don't feel like you're on a diet, because that's too restrictive. We don't want to do that. So especially with diabetes, what is the reason why you have diabetes? Bad luck because of your genetic, tendency? But you can't help that, right? As my husband would always say, you have to pick your parents with care, but there you are. So if you have a problem with your weight, usually that's the reason why you have diabetes to begin with. So maybe that's one thing that you have to focus in on, okay? So maybe just losing 5 pounds will be enough to keep your blood sugar in that acceptable level that will prevent you from having the long-term complications of diabetes, which is what we don't want you to have, okay? That's all, simple, okay. Next question? Okay. It's okay to skip a meal so you can eat a bigger meal later. True? False? Okay, just not raising your hands. You're afraid? Might be this. True? No. Or false? Okay. Is that true? All right, go ahead.
So the answer false, that is correct. Boo. Oh, okay. So you want to keep in mind you want to eat regular meals to help keep your blood sugar steady. And also, what happens when you generally skip a meal of the day? You're more likely to overeat at the next meal. So that can also hamper weight loss. That can get in the way of weight loss because you tend to eat a lot more. And the food choices that we make when we do skip a meal and we try to compensate for it, it's going to be poor food choices as well. So try to eat meals every 4 to 5 hours, and it's also recommended to add a snack, appropriate snack, in between your meals as well.
So I think another point here is that, we try not to dictate what time you eat. You want to get up later one day, it's a free country, right? So, but you're taking your medication at a certain time, because some people, when, let's say they take a medication when they wake up and they're waking up at different times during the day, well, that medication may be only lasting a certain amount of time, right? So if you're waking up, let's say one day at 10 o'clock, and usually you take maybe your insulin or your pills, usually earlier in the morning, well, if you wake up at 10, there's already this time that there's no more medication left in your system. So you wake up and you check your blood sugar and it might be high. And so you'll see all these fluctuations that happens because, the medications, they have their limitations, right, as to how long they last. So when we teach you in the outpatient diabetes program is that you know, we have you learn what your medications are doing, okay? You have to be responsible for knowing why you take it at a certain time, what it's used for. As you know, too, we don't have any kind of shortage on medications. There's a medication for every little problem. But you know what? The data that you keep, okay, really helps the doctors figure out what's wrong with you and what type of medication to give you. Okay, we're not just having you check your blood sugar just because we want you to. There's a reason for all that. Okay, and so also eating your meals on a regular basis. So if, for example, you take a medication and then you eat, right? So have you checked your blood sugar 2 hours afterwards? Why are we doing that? Because we want to see how your meals affected your blood sugar and see if that medication that's prescribed to you was a perfect match. So anytime you eat anything, your blood sugar is going to go up. I think people think they're not supposed to go up. Okay, but it's not supposed to go up that high. So the American Diabetes Association recommends that your blood sugar should not go up over 180, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. 180 2 hours after the meals, because it is going to go up. So the next bullet point right here, try to eat meals every 4 to 5 hours and snack in between. So if, for example, in 2 hours, right, that is when your blood sugar is at its highest. Are you going to snack at that time? Why? Because your blood sugar is already too high. So you want to wait a while. So that's why it tells you on the bullet down below, you have to kind of wait 4 to 5 hours for that blood sugar to come back down so you can eat again. Now that snack in between there is if you know your meal is going to be delayed a little bit, right? So maybe you can eat a little tiny snack right there in between. So just to carry you over to the next meal. Diabetes portion plate is okay, think about this. It's a 9-inch plate. Half of the plate is for non-starchy vegetables. A quarter of the plate is for lean protein. And the other quarter of the plate is for starches or carbohydrate foods. D, all of the above. Raise your hands if you know the answer. D? D. Okay. I always knew D is a good grade. Right? Okay, not to get into college though. Okay, you guys, I see kids here. Get A's. Okay, there's the answer. Who answered D? All the above, yay, okay. Yeah, we got A+ students today. You might as well quit now, right? You guys know everything. Okay, so you want to talk about the diabetes portion plate.
So answer is D, all of the above. So if you look at this plate, imagine it being a 9-inch plate. Now you're probably thinking, well, what is a 9-inch plate? Well, a 9-inch plate is about the size of a salad plate. So if you're buying plates, Crate and Barrel, Target, they have dinner plates and they have salad plates. So salad plates are the closest to a 9-inch diameter plate like this. Now, we talked about how to lay out this portion plate. Quarter of it is what? So a quarter of it is carbohydrate, the other quarter is lean protein, and the other half is non-starchy vegetables. So we do encourage a diet that's rich in vegetables. Anytime if you want to go for seconds, which part of the plate would you go for? Probably the salad. The non-starchy vegetables. So lean protein like white meat of poultry, fish, lean red meats, tofu, dry beans, lentils would be a good source of lean protein. However, what are dry beans and lentils also considered as? Starchy. So if you are using those as your protein source, where would they also fall? Probably in the other quarter of the plate with all the other starchy foods. Also want to incorporate a lot of healthy carbs. These include brown rice, quinoa, which also contain protein, potatoes, whole grain pasta, and bread.
So if you're just starting out on your venture and you're not quite sure what to eat, get yourself a 9-inch plate, not the serving platter that you're going to have for Thanksgiving. That's not the plate. It's a 9-inch plate. And so fill half of that plate with non-starchy vegetables. So we're encouraging you to eat more greens, actually adding more fiber in your diet without you really having to think about it, because we've done all the thinking for you, right? So, and then cut the other half and you put whatever kind of protein you want to eat. You know, you can have anything, fish, whatever you want. Burger patty, okay, but that plate is going to confine you in that little portion, so you just can't eat way too much. Okay, so basically it's all about eat whatever you want as long as you don't have it be overflowing on the plate. Okay, that's it. And then the other quarter of that, I don't care what you have, rice, potatoes, pasta, bread, that's your starch, that's your carbohydrates. Okay.
I was going to add, this is a good strategy for weight loss too. If you want to fill up more on the non-starchy vegetables, they're the lowest calorie part of the plate. So try to eat more vegetables, or if you are hungry for seconds, go back, try to eat more vegetable first before you eat more of the starch or the protein. Because even if it's lean protein, it still has more calories than the vegetables do.
So which one of the following nutrient causes the most increase in blood sugar? Protein, fats, carbohydrates. 100%. Is it? Okay.
C. Okay, carbohydrates. I mean, that's why we're here. We're talking about carbohydrates. So, carbohydrates do have the greatest effect on blood sugar. When you do consume foods that contain carbohydrate, they get broken down as sugar in our blood, and we utilize that as energy. So again, carbohydrates are really our preferred source of energy. Therefore, you don't want to avoid this, but you want to consume just enough to get your body running appropriately.
Okay, does anybody have anything to say about this? We're all clear about this, right? So they're trying to simplify the diet, basically. Before we used to have you count everything, your calories. We want you to, calculate the amount of protein that you're eating. I don't know if you guys remember back in the days when they used to have, food exchange system. So everything is calculated. They've dumbed it down to the point where they only want you to concentrate on the carbohydrate piece of these macronutrients. These are the protein, fats, and carbohydrates are the nutrients that you get from the food that make up the calories in the food. So with the diabetes portion plate, as you can see, they only want you to have that small amount of carbohydrates without you having to worry about exactly how much, right? As long as you stick to that plate, you're going to be okay. Okay. If you combine the three, actually the protein and the fats provide buffer to the carbohydrates so they don't make your blood sugar go up so fast. So you may only be consuming the right amount of carbohydrate, let's say, for the meal. But if you had just all my 45 grams of carbohydrates, they say all rice, let's say, because you like rice, and then you didn't put any protein with it or didn't put any fats in there, your blood sugar could go up really fast. But if you add a little bit of the protein and a little bit of maybe a little good oil to cook it in and your non-starchy vegetables, you would have more of a blunted increase in your blood sugar, okay? So it's important to do the balance. So follow the plate. Back to the plate, okay? Next question. What foods have carbohydrates? See, there's the question of the potato, right? Hold on. Here are the choices. Okay, can you guys read this? Okay, fruits, cereal, bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, beans or lentils, milk, yogurt, peas, corn. I try to put as much as I can on that one. A, okay. Next, how about this one? Meat, seafood, tofu, eggs, cheese, nuts, avocados, olives, oil, butter, margarine. C, crackers, chips, cake, cookies, candies, ice cream, pudding, bagel, croissants, donuts, yum. Oh, see? Okay. You sure?
Yes.
you want to wait until the last?
Is there another one? Is there
One
another
more
one?
answer choice.
Okay, there is.
Is that your final answer?
D, both A and C. Okay, who wants to commit to an answer? D. See, there you go. A great grade, D. Yay, who answered D? All right, so you guys know all this stuff. So is that potato, guys, question answered now? So potatoes fit under that umbrella of starches, right? Rice, potatoes, and the pasta, the quinoa, because these are all the new things that are popping up, right? Barley, what else? Spelt, farro. What else we got? I mean, this is like,
seeds.
isn't that a fat? Oh,
Chia seeds. Well, it is.
it could be both. Okay, go ahead. Potato skin. Oh, that's a good one. I knew I would get stumped somehow. Well, it has fiber, so actually it might help with not making it get absorbed too quickly. So it's all included in there. So they didn't like do an analysis of potatoes with or without skin.
So the potato has the skin is more like an insoluble fiber, so it's probably not going to get broken down and digested and converted to sugar so much. But the inside of the potato, yeah.
So are you talking about?
to just eat the skin?
Well, Lorrie, I don't know about you, but I've gone to restaurants and they have potato skins on the menu.
Yeah, they do, but there's still usually like some potato left on the skin.
And other things too.
Yeah.
Question 8. What is carbohydrate counting? Now we're getting into the college level now. Let's see, now I don't see any hands. Okay. A, it's a form of meal planning. B, it's a method of calculating grams of carbs consumed at meals. C, grams of carbs and carb choices are both ways to count carbs. D, all of the above. Okay. So I have to make a confession. I made all these questions, so I like D. All right.
All right, so answer is D, all of the above. So carbohydrate counting is a form of meal planning besides the diabetes portion plate. And what you're using is really the grams of carbs. You're going to calculate the grams of carbs consumed at meals. So in the next slide, we're actually going to talk about, oh, it's another question. But in one slide, we'll actually talk about how many carbs should you have per meal.
Why not? Okay, question 9. What does one carb choice mean? A, one carb choice is equivalent to 15 grams of carbohydrate. B, 1/3 cup cooked rice is one carb choice or 15 grams of carb. C, 3 ounces of cooked chicken. Or D, both A and B. A, yes, it's A and B. So when you hear the term carb choice, it means it's equivalent to 15 grams of carbohydrate. So like, the sandwich size bread you buy at the store, those loaves that fit in your toaster, that's probably about 15 grams of carbohydrate. That's one carbohydrate choice. One slice. Now the wider loaves is probably more like 1.5. So it just depends but the standard sandwich size. And then 1/3 cup of cooked rice that's just one example of a carb choice. But it could be 1/3 cup of rice or 1/3 cup of cooked pasta. Those each have about 15 grams of carbohydrate. And the chicken does not because it's a protein. Protein food, so it doesn't have any carbohydrate.
So let's show the answer choice. So if you chose the answer, so if you chose the answer D, which is A and B, then you are correct. So here we're going to talk about carbohydrate counting. So again, carbohydrate counting is a method of calculating grams of carbohydrate that's consumed per meal. How many of you guys actually look at nutrition fact labels? What do you focus on when you look at nutrition fact labels? I hear a lot of things.
You look at the added sugar.
You look at the added sugar. Okay, well that's good. So that's something that's new for 2018 with our nutrition fact labels. We have the added sugar. But if we're counting carbohydrates, the part that we're really focused on is the total carbohydrates in the food for one serving. So focus more on that versus just looking at sugar or the added sugar, because you want to account for all of the carbohydrate in that food.
The one thing to focus in on though is the serving size. Look at the serving size. It's 3/4 cup in this product. I don't know what this product is, but 3/4 cup is 40 grams of carbohydrates. So if you ate the whole package, there's 5 3/4 cup portions in there. So that would be 40 times 5 grams of carbohydrates you'd be eating if you ate the whole thing. So carbohydrate counting is the other form of meal planning. So you have the diabetes portion plate, right? So this is another method. So maybe your meals don't fit in a typical diabetes portion plate, and that could be confusing. So this might be the method that would work for that particular meal. So it's good to do a combination. So you have an idea how much carbohydrates you're consuming, because remember, carbohydrate foods are the ones that's going to make your blood sugar go up, right? So always be aware why your blood sugars may be up and down. Because when you just bring the log to the doctor and say, I don't know what's going on, my blood sugar is all over the place. So at least know whether it's your food that's causing that, or maybe it's your meal timing that's a little off. Because if you ate something before you had, let's say, a particular meal, all right, and you're only checking your blood sugar after that meal, and maybe you only ate like, I don't know, 10 grams of carbohydrates, you're going to blame that food. I don't know, I only ate 10 grams of carbohydrate and my blood sugar went up sky high. Well, maybe you forgot that you ate like the piece of fun-sized Snickers bar just before that. Oh, I forgot. Okay? Then we're making, you know what, adjustments on those medications, maybe needlessly. Sometimes we just can't pinpoint what's going on. So that's why we always encourage you guys to try to be as consistent as possible. And if you think that you've done something to make it be different, at least try to see whether you can figure out what happened. Did you eat something? Did you casually drink a glass of orange juice that your granddaughter forgot to drink, you didn't want to throw it out? Okay, everything counts.
For men. So for men, the average is about 4 to 5 carb choices. And remember, one carb choice is equivalent to how many grams of carbohydrate? 15. So that's equivalent to 60 to 75 grams of carbohydrate. Now, if you are very tall, if you're 6'2" or 6'3", maybe 75 might be more of the end for you. But if you're just average height, probably the 60 grams carb per meal. So here is an example of a meal that consists of around 70 to 75 grams of carbohydrate. Turkey sandwich with lettuce, tomatoes, mayonnaise, and mustard. So Macaria just went over how to break down that double cheeseburger. So let's break down this turkey sandwich. What's a carb in the turkey sandwich? Bread. How many slices of bread do you think would be in a turkey sandwich?
It has to be 2.
Has to be 2. Could be 3. So So if you had 2 slices of bread in a turkey sandwich, how many carbohydrates would that be? 30. So 2 carb choices. Are there any carbohydrates in lettuce? No. What about tomatoes? No. Maybe a little bit, but doesn't count as a carb choice. Mayonnaise? We just talked about this. What was mayonnaise? Fat. What about mustard? No.
Well, but it depends. If you have honey mustard, then you know there should be nutrition information on that.
Yeah.
So you add it up. Maybe there's 3 grams there. Maybe you want to stay strictly with 70. So you put that down.
If you use a lot of condiments, you might want to look how much sugar is in my ketchup or my barbecue sauce or my teriyaki sauce. So
Those are all hidden sugars in there you have to count. Okay? Go ahead.
Okay. So we've agreed there's no carbs in mustard.
Yes. Unless it's honey mustard, like she pointed out. Hey, there's a whole aisle of mustard. Oh. Okay.
1 small apple. So 1 small apple that is about the size of, let's say, a tennis ball would be about 15 grams of carbohydrate. So that would be another carb choice right there. So far we have a total of 45 or 3 carb choices. Baked chips, and we're assuming that you are eating out of nicely portioned chips bag, not out of the big bag.
Not the snack pack that's big. It's like the snack pack.
The small snack size one, okay? How much carbohydrates do you think would be in there? We'll say about 30. Agree? 30 grams? Around 25 to 30 grams of carbohydrate in there. So if we added all of that up, how many carbohydrates? About 75. Okay.
So as you can see, we try to make it as well balanced here. It's got all the food groups, the apple, the little bit of vegetables that's there, right? And something fun like baked chips. We didn't have you eat anything that's even healthier than that, okay? So you can have a little fun as long as you account for your carbohydrates. But let's say, you know what, I want to have more chips. What are you going to do with this meal plan then? Okay? So you cut out the apple, you're right. So you're staying still within that same grams of carbohydrates. But remember, we always want to focus on making the meals more healthy. So once in a while, okay, that's allowable. But try to have it so you're basically not eliminating any food groups that's going to give you vitamins and minerals and fiber. So like I said, during some of those times when you have a little less self-control, okay, but then hopefully at the next meal you'll make up for it. See, there's nothing magical about bread. I mean, you just have to pick out the right kind of carbohydrates you want to consume. Okay, yeah, go for it. Potato salad, macaroni salad, you know, it's right. You just have to have the right amount. It's all about the portion. Now, if you have like 2 cups, no. So you have to take a look at what is equivalent of potato salad with that 1 slice of bread or 2 slices of bread. Okay, so that you are staying still within the same number of grams of carbohydrates for that meal. And also, when you check your blood sugar before and after, you'll see how certain carbohydrates are affecting your blood sugar. Maybe the bread is not making your blood sugar go up so high as, let's say, your potato salad. So are you going to have potato salad all the time? So maybe you'll change that option, especially on the days when you may be running a little higher than normal. You want to resort to those food combinations that's giving you really good numbers, all right? Okay, next.
Now, for women, do you want to hold off? Sorry. So for women, we recommend about 3 to 4 carb choices. So that would be equivalent to how much? 45 to 60 grams of carbohydrates per meal. So it's a little bit less. But here is an example of a 45 to 55 gram carbohydrate meal. Half a cup of Campbell's vegetable soup. How much carbs do you think might be in there? 30? So read the labels. Definitely check the nutrition fact labels. It could be around 15 grams in a serving of the Campbell's vegetable soup, depending on what you get, of course. So if there's potatoes in there, potato chunks, and other starchy vegetables or other types of starchy vegetables, then that would increase the total carbohydrate as well. Toss salad with oil and vinegar dressing. 0, right? 0 grams of carbs in there. Half a tuna sandwich with lettuce and tomatoes. So half would just be equivalent to 15 grams or 1 carb choice. So this is about 45 grams of carbs right here in this meal. Sorry, forgot the 1 cup of grapes. I knew this was 45. So 1 cup of grapes, of course, would be another 15 grams of carbohydrate, which gives you about 45 to 55. So the first one, the half cup of Campbell's vegetable soup, may vary in terms of carbohydrate content. And as what Macaria said is you want to read the labels and make sure that you're counting those carbohydrates correctly as well.
Okay, so I'm sure by now you guys are learning how to count your carbs, right? I want you to think about what you ate for breakfast and what snack you just had, and think about the carbs you just ate, all right? All right, next, question 10. I think we're nearing the end because we are running out of time. Okay, just quickly, what are net carbs? We just want to kind of show you whether you've seen this on the label. Okay, we want to give you just a really brief explanation what this is. Okay, but what is it? Bullet 1, total carbs minus fiber and sugar alcohols in a product. Carbs that are sold in a plastic net. Carbs that are absorbed in the body and used for energy. Or, there's my favorite grade, right? Gee, I'm so predictable. What did you guys answer? It's so quiet.
Well, it's always been D, right?
Yes. I think they teach you that in school, right? If you're not sure, always pick all of the above and always pick the last one. So come on, I made it easy here. Okay? It's D, A, and C. Okay, how come it's not B? Okay. Have you guys seen those in the bags, right? Plastic net? Okay. There you go.
Okay, so A and C. So let me explain a little bit about net carbs. Yeah. So you'll see this term on packaged foods like tortillas and bread and energy bars, that kind of thing. Like the Atkins bar here, this is an example. It's not something that the Food and Drug Administration regulates. So the Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, does regulate the nutrition fact label and the ingredient part of the label. But if net carbs is on there, it's a claim that is not evaluated by the FDA. So it's not necessarily true. It's more of a sales strategy to get you to buy the product, with the misleading idea sometimes that it's not going to affect your blood sugar. So you have to really look at those claims if you're spending maybe extra money for a product that has these net carb claims and you think it might help your diabetes control. So they're looking at foods if it has dietary fiber or if it has sugar alcohols in it. These are carbohydrates, so they fall under the umbrella of carbohydrate, but they don't affect your blood sugar the same as regular sugar does. So sugar alcohols are they're a sweetener that is, it's not actually an alcohol. It's not, although there's alcohol in the name, it's kind of, because of the structure, it's got that in the name, but it doesn't have alcohol in it. They do actually have an effect on your blood sugar, but about half the amount that regular sugar does. So to totally subtract out sugar alcohols from that total carbohydrate is, again, misleading because they do potentially have an effect on your blood sugar. Same with dietary fiber. When you see dietary fiber on a label, that's probably a combination of soluble and insoluble fiber. So some of that dietary fiber may get converted to sugar and may have some effect on your blood sugar. But we always encourage you to look for products that have dietary fiber in them because they will usually help assist with blood sugar control. So On this example here, if you can see, the total carbohydrate is 22 grams, and the claim is, so what they've done, they've subtracted out all the fiber and all the sugar alcohols. So the claim is this product has only 2 grams of net carb. So only 2 grams of carbohydrate is going to affect your blood sugar. And that's really misleading because now the American Diabetes Association says net carbs is really not something we support for meal planning. So for most of the people in this room, don't worry about net carbs if you see that. Just look at total carbohydrate and use that total carbohydrate number for deciding if you're going to eat it or how much you're going to eat. If you go by that net carb number, you're going to underestimate how much carbohydrate you're actually eating. Now, if you're on like very intensive insulin therapy, or you have if you have a pump, you could maybe look at that net carb number. But if we were going to do it the way the American Diabetes Association recommends, you would only subtract half the fiber if it's over 5 grams of fiber per serving, and only half the sugar alcohols. So we would actually only subtract about 10 from this product, so it would actually be about 12 grams of net carb, not what the manufacturer is saying. You could subtract 20. So that's kind of just a brief explanation of net carbs. But for most people in this room, if you have type 2 diabetes, just look at total carbohydrate on the menu. Okay? Keep it simple that way. And then we wanted to share with you the new nutrition fact label. How many of you started to see this on products at the store? So you'll see the label looks different in a few ways. They've tried to make the calories bigger. The serving size is still at the top. What they took away or removed from the label, it used to have calories from fat. They got rid of that because it's not so important the number of calories from fat, but the type of fat that's in the product. So you want to look at the ingredients. What kind of fat is in there? Is it saturated fat or is it a heart-healthy fat? That's more important than the total fat. So look at that. So that's changed. So they've added some nutrients at the bottom. So now they list how much vitamin D is in the product, how much calcium, how much iron and potassium. They don't list how much vitamin C anymore because they've kind of found from research that there isn't really vitamin C deficiencies in the United States so much. So they're trying to emphasize more information about vitamin D and potassium. And when you look at the total carbohydrate part of the label, this is very helpful information now, because if the product has added sugars, there's a whole separate line for that. So before, if it had a total sugar, it didn't tell you how much of that is natural sugar in the food and how much is added sugar. So I used this just recently. I was at the store. I was looking at 2 yogurts. One was plain, the same company, Clover, plain, and one was vanilla. And they broke it down by added sugar. And I ended up buying the plain because I could see how much added sugar was in their vanilla version. So that's what you should do at the grocery store. If you're looking at products and compare, try to go with the one that has no added sugars or less added sugar, okay? There's not really like an amount or grams per day that we're supposed to keep it under, but we're supposed to just try to take in as little added sugar as possible, because it's in so many things we're not even really aware of. But now that it's on the label, you can see. So.
Cake, a regular cake, but then you don't want your blood sugar to go up too high. You get the same size of the kind that has a sugar substitute, it's probably going to be okay. Your liver's supposed to be able to process that, okay? But I think we've been giving the liver too much work lately. That's why we have what they call fatty liver that's not alcoholic related. So yeah, so just cut down on the chemicals. Eat more whole foods, natural stuff, okay? What you find on the tree, ground, not the one in the package. Okay, so what we just want to try to point out really quickly is, like, as far as meal planning, is that, you can do either carb counting or portion plate. Now you know why we try to show you both, right? And because sometimes you might want to go to Ethiopian food. Are you going to put that in a diabetes portion plate? It's kind of difficult, right? So you might want to do carb counting with that, just to quickly get an idea. How am I going to fit this in my 45, 60 gram carbohydrate lunch today? So you're going to have pick and choose. And how about this one? What is this? Korean food, right? Bibimbap, yeah. So that you can probably put in a diabetes portion plate. It's mainly more vegetables, really, than anything. But guess where the rice is? Hidden. Underneath, there's at least 2 cups in there. Underneath this whole thing, it's in the bowl. So if you ate the whole thing, remember, 1/3 of a cup is 15 grams of carbs. So that's like a whole cup. It's about 45 grams of carbs already. So if you double that, if you eat this whole thing, which I've seen people do in a restaurant, you know, your blood sugar is probably over 300 plus, okay? Not to mention there's probably some sugar hidden in these, like, what is that thing?
Bibimbap sauce.
Yeah, the bibimbap sauce. So all of those things have to be accounted for, okay? So when you guys are eating foreign things like this, you guys all have a phone. You can Google stuff now. I wish I had a Google brain. Okay, how about this? How are you going to fit that in a portion plate? So maybe you just have to learn how to count carbs on this. Try to figure out which foods have carbs. And then, for example, if you know you want to contain it to either 60 to 75 grams of carbs, pick and choose which one you're not going to eat. Because you're probably not going to be able to eat all of this. Okay, because it's going to be over that. Okay, you What about this? I'm getting hungry.
This one might look a little bit more familiar. What would you do with this? Eat it. Okay. I would probably just eat it too. So maybe we need to do a combination of the carb counting and portion plate on this one. If you notice, some of the meat has batter over it. So we have to account for the carbs on that batter as well. Yeah, and the noodles. And what if you have rice? And the sauce. So a lot of the sauce could have added sugar in there as well. So Macaria suggested Googling. So we can, of course, Google a lot of this recipe and look at nutrient analysis that could be available. Or we have all of these apps. MyFitnessPal. How many of you guys use MyFitnessPal? Oh, okay. Well, you can actually put in the food that you eat. There's a huge database of different foods and nutrient contents as well. So you can look into that to count carbohydrates. That can help you. And count calories, keep track of what you're eating. So that's a way to keep track of how much carbohydrate you might be consuming in this. And another thing that could be helpful is everyone has a smartphone. So take a picture of your meal. Because you may not just eat one serving of this or one plate, you could be eating multiple plates of this, especially with family-style dinners, right? So take pictures of the meal so you remember what it looked like, how much you ate, keep yourself accountable. And if you're measuring your blood sugar afterwards and it's really high, then you know why, right? Yeah.
So remember about also, you know, walking after the meals. Walking acts like a medication because people always ask, well, what if my blood sugar is high now? What do I do? Especially if you're just taking a pills for your diabetes. You're not going to take an extra pill, are you? So you're kind of stuck there for a while. So walking, especially after the meals, hopefully will help drive that blood sugar down so it's not hanging around all day long, all night long, because this can have a long-lasting effect. Okay, on that blood sugar control. So here's some other ways to decide whether you can do quickly portion plated or carb count. So probably carb count, right? And sandwich, we've done this. Okay, so this one we have another question for you, true or false?
Because these are easy questions.
So you can't have desserts if you have diabetes, true or false?
I think it's false.
Okay. I'm not sure. This is kind of loaded. Well, the dietitian said I can have dessert. Okay.
I would say if your diabetes is not controlled well, you should not have dessert.
Yeah.
Well, I know maybe the doctors in the room will disagree, but we always say, hey, talk to your doctor how much insulin you can take because you know you're going to eat this whole thing. So, they run the risk of being on the show, My 600-Pound Life, though, because we can't make your blood sugar go down. We give you enough insulin, right?
Okay.
So,
Well, keep in mind if your blood sugar is under control, you can have desserts, but try to save these for special occasions. So Thanksgiving is coming up. Maybe that's the one time you allocate that special treat. It's for that one day. But if you're someone who craves sweets all the time on ordinary days, a good way to replace that is to try having a piece of fruit instead. So.
okay, I think this is our last question, right?
One more.
Oh, one more after this? Oh, boy. Okay. The American Diabetes Association blood glucose are fasting or before meals of less than 130, 2 hours after meals of less than 180, percent A1C of less than 7%.
Good old D.
I told you, I made it really easy for you guys. Okay, so all of these, if you maintain blood sugars such as these and your A1C is less than 7%, you reduce your risk of having complications, okay? That's related to diabetes that's out of control. See, there's no reason for your blood sugar to be out of control right now. We have good knowledge and we have good medications and we can check our blood sugars every day. We don't even have to wait till you see the doctor to see what your blood sugar has been. So if your numbers are high and you don't know why, maybe you're getting sick, I don't know, call the doctor. Maybe they can make adjustments before your next checkup. There you go. Oh, there's another one. Okay.
This is the last question.
Promise.
We promise. What type of activity can lower or help lower blood sugar? A, walking, B, biking, C, gardening, D, all of the above.
So basically, we just want you to get up off the couch. All right? Just move.
So answer is D. There are a lot of health benefits of physical activity, and they're not limited to these. It lowers blood pressure, helps improve your blood flow, helps improve your mood potentially, and could even help you sleep better if you have or suffer from insomnia. So lots of health benefits from physical activity and exercise besides just lowering your blood sugar. And when's a good time to exercise? When's the best time to exercise to lower your blood sugar? After a meal. Yeah.
Anytime you can fit it in.
Yeah.